Alex, so welcome back to another reading vlog. It is Monday, we have 5 days left of May, so let's work our way through this. I have no water, hence why I am this much of a mess, but you constantly see me as a mess in vlogs, so who cares? But yeah, I need a shower desperately. I'm kept together by dry shampoo and deodorant. My tether is very thin, but we're going to go through the books that I plan on reading for this week's vlog. So I'm going to start with the looming ghosts that have been around for several of my vlogs at this point. I have been working my way through Kazuo Ishiguro's The Buried Giant over the last few weeks. I am buddy reading this with a friend and they are kind of the ones marking the pace, but I do definitely want to get this done this week, so I have moved ahead a little bit this morning with breakfast and I am now on chapter 11. This is the story of a couple named Axel and Beatrice, and they are searching for their son. This is set essentially a generation also after King Arthur. We are following them as they traverse a fantastical and historical landscape, in the sense that we have the historical notions of the Saxons and the Britons, so the Britons being the Roman colonizers and the Saxons being those who were already on the island upon Roman invasion. And then we also have the fantastical landscape of Arthurian legend, which has dragons and ogres and the like. This is literary fantasy. It is very much a speculative story with themes to be discussed more than anything else, and the central theme seems to be memory and cultural identity, which I am really enjoying, and I am hoping to get this done relatively soon. And yeah, I am really enjoying it, and I'm really enjoying having the buddy read there, so I've got someone to chat to about the book, but I do need to get this finished before June, simply because my June TBR is insane. Otherwise I'd prolong it even longer. I don't really mind. The other one that has been rolling over the last few weeks is The Water Outlaws by S.L. Huang, and this one is the one that I'm reading on audio, and this audiobook is a historical fantasy that is set in historical China, and we are following a gender bent protagonist, and it discusses feminism. We are following this person as they manage to secure themselves a higher rank than is normally permitted for a woman in this empire. However, when they get accused of treason, everything that they have known and everything that they have been taught to believe is kind of thrown to the wind, and they have to join a group of bandits to survive and potentially also take down this regime. And I'm really enjoying this one as well. I've been really enjoying listening to the audiobook. I have about 4 hours left of the audiobook now at this point, which is great, so I should be able to just, you know, listen to an hour a day or so, and I should be good. Yeah, I'm really liking the audiobook narrator. I think she does a really good job of bringing to life these characters, and also it's a very gentle audiobook but still manages to retain my attention, which is something that I am very much enjoying as well. The ebook that I am currently reading is Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho. This is a magical realism contemporary standalone in which we are following a young woman who is moving back to Malaysia from the US, having been, I don't know if born, but definitely raised in the US. She has no real memory of Malaysia, and she's moving back because her parents are moving back and she can't really afford to sustain herself in the States by herself. When she returns, it turns out that she's actually being haunted and potentially even possessed by her grandmother. Her grandmother was very eccentric, and she was very devout to this local deity that is known as the Blackwater Sister, and when someone insults her goddess, she swears revenge and isn't going to let a pesky thing like death get in her way when she can take over and possess our protagonist. The protagonist is a little bit of a doormat kind of protagonist at the beginning, and I think it's how she gets some gumption, which I like those kinds of narratives, so I'm looking forward to that. She's also queer and in the closet. There's also generational trauma and family dynamics, which I am very much enjoying. I struggled with the first 50 pages of this one because it was very info dumpy, like more info dumpy than I can normally tolerate, but I did push through and I am really enjoying it now. The sense of humor seems quite entertaining. You have like this naughty grandmother, you have that kind of grandma figure that is just so past it that she doesn't care about propriety anymore, which I'm really liking. So there are elements that I'm really enjoying, and now that I've pushed past that not great start, I'm having a much better time. And the last one that I have to talk about is I am going to be finishing up the Dandelion Dynasty by reading Speaking Bones, the 4th book in this series by Ken Liu. Book one in this series, I have been vlogging the whole experience, so apologies to anyone who's been watching all the vlogs, but the first book in this series I did enjoy. I ended up giving it like a decent 4 stars. It was a good time. Book two, higher 4 stars, had a really good time, was much more engaged. It seemed much more seamless a plot, and it seemed like everything that we've been seeing in book one was actually becoming to be more fleshed out and more fulfilled. I engaged with the characters more because I did struggle with the characters in book one. So overall, book two was definitely a massive step up from book one. Then last week I read book three, which is The Veiled Throne, and felt absolutely in love with this series. Now I know that a lot of people seem to prefer the first book the most or something. The Veiled Throne is what had me. Now there's no one event really in The Veiled Throne that caught me. I mean, there were definitely some moments in there that, oh my god, but just something about that book, the way it was told, the way it was framing these characters was absolutely phenomenal. Obviously I can't talk to you about that one because it is the third book in a massive series, but I loved that book so much. I gave it 5 stars. The author himself has said that books 3 and 4 are kind of one seamless narrative. So book 4 is going to continue on directly from book 3, and I am really excited about that, but I am also terrified. This book is over 1,000 pages and I'm going to read it in 5 days, and you betcha I can do it, and because I am having such a good time and I can't wait. And I am so excited to dive into this series, into this world one last time. This series is another one that is historical fantasy, and we are following the rise of a dynasty. We are following it from the perspective of someone who comes from an underprivileged situation, who aided by a duke whose family were disinherited essentially because of this tyrannical emperor. When the emperor dies, he seeks to sit someone on the throne, which means that these two team up to then create a new dynasty in this land, and everything progresses so much further from there. Like, there's no comparison. It is steampunk as well, which is very cool, and we have a lot of divine magic going on in here as well. I didn't think that I would fall as in love with this series as I have, but alas, here we are. It's wonderful. I'm a happy bunny. So that's everything I'm planning on reading this week. I will hopefully give you some updates on me finishing up things, finishing up my May TBR. I am also participating in the Fantasy Fellowship Readathon, and so far of the books that I have on my TBR, 2 of them don't actually qualify for any of the prompts, which are Speaking Bones, which is the largest one, but I haven't put it down for any of the prompts, and also The Water Outlaws doesn't count for any of the prompts either because I added that onto my TBR later. However, we do have The Buried Giant is for the prompt to read a book from your homeland, tales from your, like, where you're from, because this is set in England in Arthurian times and I am English. And then we also have Blackwater Sister, which counts for the Hell Hath No Fury Like a Woman Scorned, which is women's rage, and that one has it in spades. So that is where we're at with the readathon. It's where we're at with the books, and I will hopefully be able to complete this readathon in plenty of time. Hey vlog, it's Tuesday, so I have actually managed to have a shower because we do have our water back on. Thank goodness. I feel much better for it as well, which is lovely. But I am now a decent ways into quite a few things, so I thought it'd be time to check in. I am now an extra 100 pages into Blackwater Sister, which means I only have 100 pages to go. And yeah, I mean, I'm getting on with this a lot better than I was when I first started reading it. I don't think it's necessarily new favorite material. It's a shame as well because I've heard so many amazing things about it. It's not that I'm not enjoying it, I'm having a good time with it. I don't think I'm its intended audience. I think the humor is good. I like the protagonist. I love the women's rage element, but I think it's more the way that the story's being told that isn't necessarily 100% to my liking. I think that the story itself, the descriptions around culture, the themes of the book are fantastic. I just don't think that the writing style is necessarily for me. Oh, that's not true either, because the descriptions are really good, the characterization's really good. There's just like an element of it that is just not quite me, and I can't really pinpoint what. I think on Corpa, the part I'm going to rate the lowest is logic, and not in the sense of like, oh well, because there's a deity or, you know, any of the fantastical elements that obviously defy logic. It's more in the sense of just, there are some times where I have questions about a character's actions or motivations, about the author's choice of why they're describing this in this moment, why they're placing this importance now on this thing, because it doesn't necessarily tie together that well. So yeah, I'm struggling with the reasoning for both the characters and some of the authorial choices, but it's still a really good book and I'm having a good time with it. It's just, it's one of those, I'm taking away more negative than positive in what I'm discussing, even though there is way more positive than negative. Like, the book is a really good book and I can't imagine it getting less than a 7 on Corpile. But at the same time, I think because there's so many things I really like, those things that are stopping it from being like new favorite material are actually really, really frustrating, because it's so close to being something that I'd really, really love. It's almost more annoying. Like, if I just was meh about the book, I think I'd prefer that than how I feel about this book, which is very much like, oh, this is a book that I should like, and it's annoying me. So that's where I'm at with that one. I am a little further into The Buried Giant. I am just trying to blast through this now, and I'll happily listen to whatever Steve has to say about the book and try and keep it as spoiler free as possible. But I am on part 5, which puts me at page 305, which mercifully leaves me with 62 pages, which is not bad going. So I potentially will finish this tomorrow. And then I didn't get a chance to tab the book yesterday, so I just have all of these like little paper placeholders at the minute, but I will tab up the book. But I am now on page 202 of Speaking Bones, and I am, of course, terrified. I can't even say I'm loving it because I'm just terrified that every time I turn a page, I'm like, I'm scared. I put in a Discord that I'm in that this is the book for the week, and I got thoughts and prayers. So God, someone help me. I am obviously now just so far into this series that I can't put it down, and I'm super excited to keep continuing, but I am terrified. And then I have made a little tiny bit of progress with the Water Outlaws. I think I've listened to another chapter, which was about half an hour long. I think made a bit more progress. Obviously not much to say because it's just literally one more chapter, but I have made some progress. So that's where I'm at with my reading so far. So hopefully I will be able to check in tomorrow, and we'll be halfway through. We'll be at the halfway point of this last almost week of reading, and we'll see how I'm doing. Hey vlog, it is Wednesday morning, so I thought I'd check in. I did read a decent amount of Speaking Bones yesterday. I actually went over into the Wednesday section a little bit, and I am now on page 460. I don't have words anymore. Like, at this point, like, even when things aren't really happening, and things are always happening, obviously, but there's such a massive scope to this now that things are always happening. Even conversations are still something happening, because it's so intrinsically linked to the politics and the machinations and the way that this world is run and the conflicts that will come with that, etc, etc. Everything is something, but even when we are in a slightly slower bit, I am still just terrified. I am on the edge of my seat. I am desperate to keep reading. I had to stop yesterday because I had to get stuff done, but otherwise I literally think I would have just kept going, and heaven knows when I would have stopped. So today's plan is I want to obviously finish Wednesday's section, and then I would also like to read a little bit of Blackwater Sister. I did read like 20 pages or so yesterday, so I have about 70-80 pages left of my ebook with that one, so not long to go at all. I maybe I do try and only stick to reading my allocated section of this today, and then read a little bit more of Blackwater Sister, maybe even finish it, I don't know. Yeah, then I literally will be left with the Water Outlaws. I did listen to another chapter of the Water Outlaws yesterday as well, actually, but again, like, I feel like I'll just give you an update with the Water Outlaws, like a proper one at the end, because obviously I am in the final throes. I'm in the last few chapters, so I can't say anything specific to the chapters. There's nothing really that I can say this late in the game, so I'm gonna try and stick to only reading today's section of this, try and finish Blackwater Sister, and then maybe potentially read a little bit more of the Water Outlaws. So it's Wednesday evening, and I thought I would check in again just because it's been a heck of a lot of reading. Even though it's 2 updates in one day, it's been a lot of reading. I didn't actually read any more of Blackwater Sister, but I am hoping to do that tonight. But I did in fact get to my allocated section of Speaking Bones, which is a lot, and a lot of things are happening, and a lot of things are happening to characters that I don't want them to happen to, and oh my god, just I never expected from reading book one to be this emotionally invested in the characters. I think that's the thing that is actually shocking me the most, is actually really caring about these characters and actually feeling for these characters. They seemed so aloof the way he was writing them in book one, for them to now be these really well-rounded, well-developed, really amazingly intricate characters, and I am loving that. So I have less than half of this book to go now. I can't believe I'm nearly done with this series. I can't believe how much I've become invested in this series. And if you went back and look at my first vlog of it with the first book in this series and my thoughts, the way that I have so drastically changed my outlook on this series, especially from books 3 and 4, has just been absolutely immense. So I am so excited and so afraid of the last few sections that I have. I have also been listening to The Water Outlaws. I have an hour left of the audio. Well, I think it's just over an hour. I've got a couple of chapters left. Actually, let's go look. 1 hour and 32 minutes left. I have 2 chapters left. And then, yeah, as I said, I'm hoping to maybe finish the Blackwater Sister tonight. We will see. We'll see if I have time. If not, that's tomorrow's problem. And then after that, it's literally just that hour of The Water Outlaws and then The Berry Giant. I'm finishing this. Hey vlog, I have been doing some filming today, hence why I look like this. But I thought I would check in because it's Thursday, which means that I only have today and tomorrow to finish my books. As it turns out, yesterday I did in fact only read Wednesday's section. So I did only read the allocated section of this book because I'd already started it on Tuesday. So I didn't actually even have a full section. I didn't even have 200 pages. So I did stick to only that, and then I finished Blackwater Sister. That is one that I've ended up giving I think a high 3 stars to. I'll check my court pile, but it's like a high 3 stars, low 4 stars. I enjoyed it. All of the same issues still persisted. I just really did not like the way that the information was given. Not descriptions, not character work. They were fantastic. The plot was fun. The humor was great. I really did not like how any new information would be presented. I think that for me, it's one of those that I think could have been maybe a longer book, or things been presented a bit slower, or some of the things be cut out, maybe. I don't know. I just think that the way that we were given information in this really heavy-handed manner, just to get it over and done with, just really didn't suit me. I think it's also hindered by the fact that I am reading absolute tomes that give you the information really slowly and really gently, that I think maybe that is also part of the problem. Had a good time with it, glad I read it, solid 3 stars. And then this morning with my breakfast, I did manage to finish The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. I have mixed feelings about the ending of this book, I'm not gonna lie. The way this book concluded was very interesting. I like this book. I love the themes of it. I think it was handled really well. I have questions, I guess. I don't know. I found this one very interesting. I'm really glad that I read it. I love the themes are put forth, but also the room the author gives you to think about interconnected things to those themes. I don't really want to talk about it too much because spoilers, but there's a lot of discussion around conflict, around identity, around sharing space, around memory, and around kind of inherited conflicts. I think that were handled in a really, really interesting way. I really liked the way that he played with Arthurian legend and the folklore that comes with that, and the different take of characters that this had, and the different characterization to what we normally get, I think was done really well. And then, yeah, following Axel and Beatrice as they search for their son. And then, yeah, the way that this concluded was just not what I was expecting, but it was very interesting. And I am forever in awe of Kazuo Ishiguro's choices when it comes to his literature, because he doesn't really end in a cataclysmic way. He doesn't end in a sob your heart out kind of way. He just ends, and it's very fascinating to me the way that he chooses to conclude his books. But yes, so solid 4 stars for this one. Really good time. Really glad I read it. I did also finish The Water Outlaws. I liked The Water Outlaws. It was a very, very compelling read. It didn't really end in a way that I was like, oh, this could have been a series. It was just an ending. It concluded in a way that felt appropriate for the story. So it wasn't like a, oh my God, ending. And it also wasn't like a, oh, okay, ending. It was a decent ending. Talking about endings is really not my strong suit because I don't know how to do things spoiler free. But I did enjoy that book. I'm really glad to have read it. Solid 4 stars. Would recommend if you're looking for more historical fantasy. Would recommend if you're wanting some epic fantasy that is a standalone, because we don't get enough of those. Had a good time. I look forward to reading more by this author. That does mean that over the next couple of days, I literally only have this left to read, which looks like a lot, but I don't know. The way that I keep compulsively reading this and I have to force myself to stop, who knows? But I am very excited to conclude out this one. So when I'm another 200 pages in, I will check in again, and then we're all done. Then it's the end. It's June. We're done with May. It is finito, which means that I need to wrap up the last book in the Dandelion Dynasty, which I did finish yesterday. I didn't do any updates yesterday because at this point there was only like the last chunk of this book left. So by the time I actually finished it in the evening, it was then moving out with my kids. I'm sure you've seen the B-roll. So I didn't update you. We're watching Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to miss out on that, so I can come and update you. It's my kids' first time watching Lord of the Rings, and it's been really lovely. They're getting really, really into it. Well, my 2 old ones are getting really, really into it, and it's lovely. I'm having a great time. But I did finish Speaking Bones yesterday. So I'm going to have a dedicated review to this series up on the channel at some point. I have also already posted my wrap up by the time this goes up, so I'm sure that you will have seen my thoughts. But I loved this series, and again, by book 3, like these last 2 books were really just absolutely exceptional. The discussions that were had around ruling and monarchy, the politics, the war, the conflicts, everything was just handled so incredibly well. And that is one of the things that I most appreciated overall about this series, is just that it didn't necessarily only play with escalation, it also played with de-escalation. It played with how to maintain a status quo, and I really liked that, because a lot of military-ish fantasies will only focus on winning battles and conquering and ruling, and it doesn't ever really kind of plateau or how to pacify and things like that. So I think that was handled really well, and all of the discussions around ruling and politics and imperialism were tackled in a really interesting way, and I really love that about this series. That does mean that I have now finished all of the books for the end of my May TBR. I finished Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho, which I ended up giving 3 stars, and it worked for the Sticks and Tomes Women's Rage prompt, which is the 4-point prompt. I finished The Water Outlaws by S.L. Huang, which I ended up giving 4 stars and doesn't work for any of the prompts for the readathon. I finished Speaking Bones by Ken Liu, which is the 4th and final book in the Dandelion Dynasty. I ended up giving this book 5 stars and it doesn't work for any of the prompts. And last but not least, I also finished The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro, which I buddy read with my friend Steve, who, as usual, I will leave his website linked down below in case you want to check him out. And this one I ended up giving 4 stars, and it worked for the Wildwood Wardens prompt, the 4-point prompt, which is to read Tales from Your Ancestors' Lands. And there you have it. That is the end of this vlog. That is the end of me vlogging in May. I hope that you've liked me being able to vlog in May. I won't be vlogging throughout the summer. 1, half of my technology just completely craps out because it overheats. 2, my kids are home all of summer, so vlogging is a lot more difficult because I don't want them on camera. Also, it's harder to hear me if there are kids screeching, and this room where I film in whenever my kids are home is inaccessible because it's so hot. So vlogging will hopefully resume either at the end of September or at least in October. I've seen that there has been a considerable increase in interest in my vlogs, so clearly I'm doing something better than I used to, which means that I will enjoy, I think, resuming, but it needs to be seasonal, because the summers here are just insufferable. We're already hitting 30 degrees really regularly, and it's the 1st of June. So it's not going to be a good summer, and we only have aircon in one room. But that is everything. So thank you ever so much for checking out my vlogs and joining me on especially my journey through reading the Dandelion Dynasty, but just reading through my May TBR. And I hope that you have enjoyed, and thank you for sticking around, really. But that is all from me for today. So thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you in another one soon. Bye!